Hello and welcome to another swipe file from Worditude. Hi, I'm Laura from Worditude, and in this video I'm going to talk you through a super sucky blog post. Now, this blog post isn't sucky because it's rubbish. It's sucky because it sucks you right in, or sucks the right audience in right from the very first line, right from the headline. And does a really great job of keeping you pulled in through the introduction into the opening paragraphs. And by that point, you're engaged and you're reading the rest of the blog post. It's by Camilla, who runs Keep Your Cool Parenting. So her business is around a kind of more peaceful approach to parenting. She's a parenting coach, the only UK parenting coach that's trained in the language of listening model of parenting. And she puts out consistent, high quality content on her blog, which she shares into her free Facebook group. And that's one of her methods for getting people to her website. And this is an example of one of Camilla's great blog posts. She gives away so much value in each of her blog posts. So we begin with the headline. I'm not going to read you the whole post. I'll link to it so you can read it through for yourself if it's something that interests you. I'm just going to point out the key features of the blog post that make it work so well, and also some other things that make the blog post work hard to generate leads for Camilla. So the headline says, why punishments don't work and what to do instead. So the reason this headline works is there's three factors to it. First of all, for the target audience, it confirms something that they suspect already. So the people that Camilla is talking to are the ones that have already tried all of the things and are feeling like, oh, this doesn't work and I don't know what else to do. So she's not just talking to any parent, any and every parent. She's not arguing a case that punishments don't work. She's only speaking to those people that already suspect that that's the case. And the question, why punishments don't work and what to do instead, that opens a loop. And so that creates curiosity in the reader. And that's the second reason why this headline is so compelling, because once we know that there's information there that we don't know, then we want to keep reading because we need to fill that information gap. And what to do instead is the promise that there is something of value, something that you need, something that you want, and that by the time you finish reading this blog post, you'll have benefited in some way. You'll be better off. So the headline works on three levels, which is what makes it so compelling. And the job of that headline, of any headline that you write for a blog post, that its only job is to get you to read the next line. Now, if that's the headline that you use on a social media post, the job is it's going to get people to click to come and read the blog. But then the headline works again to get you to read the next line in the introduction. And this is where Camilla's worked really hard. So she stacked questions that the right reader is going to be nodding along to. Do you feel like you're forever losing your cool? You're stuck in a negative cycle of shouting and punishments and still your child doesn't change his behavior. And then there's another question and another question. And the introduction, before it even gives an overview of what's going to come in the blog post, it's speaking to where the reader is right now, a little like you would at the start of a sales page, just to get them to kind of nod along, to be confirming their position. And this creates like momentum through the page. So once they've read the headline and then they're like, yeah, okay, I'm in. And then they read the next line and they're like, yep, next line, yep, next line, yep. And then so you're gathering this momentum. It sucks them into the rest of the post. By the time you're like this far down to truthfully, it leaves you feeling like a terrible parent, you've committed so much into the post that it's easy to keep going with that commitment and keep saying yes and keep reading more and more. So after she sucked them in, she starts giving an overview of what's possible inside the post. And in the very first section, before Camilla goes into teaching, she speaks about a time when she had that same experience that the readers are familiar with, that they're experiencing right now or in the very near future. And that's really important to, I've talked about it in the videos when I talk about pages. So your readers have this dilemma that they see you as this expert. And so it's natural for them to kind of put you in almost on a pedestal and then feel that you're a little bit unapproachable because you're really good at this thing that they're not so good at. Now, in some things like parenting, that's a really sensitive area and people can feel very uncomfortable approaching someone for help and admitting that actually I'm really struggling with my parenting. and speaking to someone who's a qualified expert, who's a coach in this area. So one of the things Camilla does really well to help bridge that gap and make herself be more approachable to her readers is to share examples of where not just way in the past she's had these experiences, but even recently, even while she's a parenting coach, she still has these experiences of children's behavior creating like moments of embarrassment, or her having to adjust what she's doing to the situation. So that after the kind of hook, so there's the hook of the headline, then there's a yes, yes, yes section that gets people pulled through the introduction. She then creates this kind of this connection with the reader by sharing a story herself that will be so familiar to them because they've been there before. Then she transitions into teaching. I'm not going to read it all out. She does a great job picking out stock photos as well. So there's a teaching element, and then before she wraps up, there's a section of examples that show you how to put that teaching in practice. So like theoretical examples, and she chooses a younger child, like a preschool age child, and also on a much older child, on a teenager, to show how what she's teaching is relatable and help the reader to start seeing the value of it for themselves. And then at the end, she wraps up with some suggestions of other things that you might like to watch. And then there's this option to take a free download, an e-course. Now this is the same offer on every blog post, but Camilla's worked really hard to make sure that this email opt-in is a good fit for what she's writing about. So after you've read the post, if you're not familiar with the free download, it's like an easy yes. Like you've read the post, you're like, yep, that really helps. That's really interesting. Oh, and there's a free course for me to take. Like, absolutely, yes, I'm going to have that. And it's really easy to get. You don't even have to fill anything else. You just press yes, please, and then the pop-up asks you for your email address. So it's a really easy, almost an irresistible call to action to just click on the button that says yes, please. So that's how the structure of her blog post works really well. I also wanted to draw attention to a use of subheaders. So on here, it just looks like sections of text that jump out at you. And this really helps this is quite a long blog post, so adding subheaders like this works really well for two reasons. One is that when you've written a really long blog post, sometimes people want to go back and read another bit, go back and reread a section to help make sure they've understood, or they skim read it the first time, then they come back later. And having a mixture of photographs and subheaders gives the reader visual clues as to like the geography of the page. So if they were coming back to read something, it would be easier to find the thing that they were looking for because they've got these kind of big landmarks on the page to use to help navigate the page. That's something that's quite useful for sales pages as well, because that's a page that people are likely to look at multiple times. If you can add visual clues or visual landmarks all over the page, it just helps people navigate it for a second or third time. And the other reason those headers work really well is it is a big blog post. And even though the introduction is very compelling, lots of people will just skim to see if this is really going to be worth my time before investing in reading the black and white text. And the subheaders do a great job of giving them a flavour of what's inside the blog post without giving the game away completely. So a skim reader is likely to read these titles, and if this is the kind of article that's going to be helpful to them, they'll want to go back up to the top and read it in full. And then finally, I wanted to point out something that's really important with your blog, is that somewhere you have in the sidebar an introduction to who you are. It doesn't need to be as big as this, but often your blog is going to be the first thing that somebody sees about you. So maybe a friend has shared your post on social media, or they've Googled a question and your blog has come up as one of the answers in the search results. So to give them that reassurance that you're someone who knows what they're talking about and that this blog is going to be worth their time, a short bio section in the sidebar just helps the reader begin to build that trust factor to trust you enough to even read the free content that you've created for them. And then underneath that, Camilla's also included that this is the same free download that's at the bottom. So there's two chances to see it. It's two chances to sign up with your email address. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. Remember, your landmarks for a blog post that's really sucky, that's going to suck people right in from the beginning, is an attention-getting headline that then leads into an introduction that creates engagement from the beginning. Of trying to get momentum. Yes, make them feel like this blog post is definitely for them, that you understand where they are right now and that you're about to deliver something of great value to them. Make sure that there's an element of relatability in there, especially if you're going to be teaching something that's within your area of expertise, but it's an area that they have a weakness in. And make sure that at the bottom of your blog post, you give them something to do. If you've held their attention for this long and they've stayed engaged right through to the bottom, then don't leave them hanging. Make sure you offer links to further content and offer them an opportunity to get onto your email list.